Yeah.
Obviously, we all know based off of the exit interviews and just writing on the wall the whole season, Jimmy Garoppolo is, going to be somewhere else next season. And it looks like the teams have come, the team, Jimmy Garoppolo's team and the 49ers are both working towards finding him a draft suitor or a team that works for both him and the organization. What would you say is a likely landing destination for Jimmy? And what would you feel like is the most realistic deal based off of, what the environment is for need for a starting caliber quarterback, which Jimmy Garoppolo is, and, just Jimmy Garoppolo overall?
Yeah. First, I want to say again, thank you, Jimmy, for all that you did for the Niners. I mean, we were pretty much in the dark days of 17 and being a comparable quarterback and getting us to 2 NFC championships. I want to thank you. And I think he's been a class act this whole time. You may like him or hate him as far as his play on the field, but I think he's been a class act, and I will enjoy his tenure here. As far as the offseason, it's looking like it's a seller's market with all the teams. Obviously, Big Ben retiring. A lot of these Tom Brady retiring, and so all these spots are opening up. And then there's experiments that haven't worked. Jameis Winston gets injured. Taysom Hill wasn't what the Saints could be. They have a top 10 defense. Will the new head coach be somebody? Because they promoted their defensive coordinator from in, which means they're gonna have to hire an offensive coordinator to run all the plays because he's not calling the plays. So will that offensive coordinator want Jimmy? It's going to be very interesting in how it works out. I think the Steelers make the most sense to me. They were a playoff team last year. Him and Jimmy pretty much have the same exact stats as pure stats, but Jimmy did it with 150 less pass attempts. He was over 8% better on his pass attempts becoming first downs, and his quarterback rating was all well above that. They have a great running back in Najee Harris. If they invest draft picks, that 20th pick in offensive line to give both Jimmy and Najee more time, that'd be great. They have Claypool and all those guys there. And so, and Pat Fairmouth, good tight end, which, Jimmy's been known to utilize in San Francisco, and they have a good defense. And so with this quarterback class being relatively weak, or there's a lot more, guessing work on who's going to be an elite quarterback, or, there's really no top 10, right? There's no top 10 guys. And so you're taking chances here and there. If you're Mike Tomlin, who hasn't, I don't believe he's had a losing season.
Ever.
Why? So why, instead of trying to do this as a free for all and figure out a guy who's, you're not going to get, the chances of you getting an elite quarterback in the 20s is pretty low. All right. I mean, first round results, like I've said, is one Pro Bowl for quarterback is 41%. And multiple Pro Bowls is 17%. So it's not a high rate to get a quarterback because it's hard to be a quarterback in this league. And so Jimmy's been known to do that. Your team is built to win now. You just signed TJ Watt to a big deal. You got these defensive players playing big. And so if you can get Jimmy for a third, and see how that goes. I heard the asking price right now is a second or a third in a player. And since he went to the NFC Championship game this year, I think that's realistic. Will the Niners use some of their picks? Will it be Jimmy in a third to get a second? Will it be Jimmy in their second and multiple thirds to get the first? Will it be something like that where they package these to move up and get a better pick? Mm-hmm. Because like we said, you need an impact player in the draft, right? So if you can package some picks and move up and grab those guys for a championship team that the Niners are right now, that might be the Niners' best bet. And so I would most realistically say, I think a team with the market could pay a second round pick for him, or a third in a player, or a third in a fourth, or multiple fourths, or however you want to put that. I don't know what the draft. They have the degrees of what each pick is worth and everything like that. It would be interesting, how that works out. What about you?
Yeah, so I mean, last year Carson Wentz went for a third and a conditional second that ended up turning into a first based off of playing time and, that type of stuff. I think that a third and a second would be, you look at, even though, for the 49ers, we saw Jimmy Garoppolo every single game and, we saw his up and down play. But if you look at just his resume, he wins a lot with every single year he's been healthy with the 49ers. They have won and they've gone far in the playoffs. He's 4-2 in the playoffs, went to a Super Bowl, 2 NFC championship games. So that resume, I think, is deserving of a second and a third round pick. I think multiple picks would be ideal for Jimmy. And you look, you mentioned New Orleans and Pittsburgh, but you could add Carolina to that list. You could add Cleveland to that list. You can add possibly Houston, depending on, I think they have Davis Mills, so they'll probably could just go with him. But, the Giants might be on that list. So there's quite a few teams. I just listed, 5 for sure that I think, Washington. So, that's 6 or 7 teams that are in that, like you said, the draft doesn't have any home run hitters. I think a lot of people are looking at the 2023 draft and that quarterback class as that is going to be the class that has, some big name players, just like this last draft class was. So maybe some of these teams are looking for a stopgap in between that are ready to win right now, but don't want to go into the draft. The team that I really look at, Randon, is the Cleveland Browns.
And why do you say that? They sign Baker Mayfield to a 5th-year option?
I don't know about that. Did they?
I'll look it up while you say
it. I think they were questioning whether or not they were going to do that. If they did that, then obviously that probably takes them off the list. But if they didn't do that, I look at Stefanski as somebody who's had a lot of success with Kirk Cousins. And
his 5th-year option years this year, he's making $18 million.
So they picked it up?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe not him then. I guess Cleveland is out. So let me just get off of my diatribe about why I think Cleveland would be a good fit. But maybe a team like the Giants, maybe a team like I think Pittsburgh is good, but I also think that Pittsburgh doesn't really do the stopgap quarterbacks. They like just having somebody that is going to be the quarterback of the future. Now, obviously, it works out when you get a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, who has been with the team for almost 20 years, and you're not going to find that every year. But excuse me. So it'll be interesting. I mean, if it is Pittsburgh and you get their 2nd round pick or a 3rd and a player, maybe if you could get somebody from that secondary along with the 3rd round pick, I think that would be nice because they do have pretty good defensive backs there, and safeties and corners. So it is going to be interesting. I do think you're going to get something I think it worked out well as far as the plan of keeping Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey sitting for a year and Jimmy increasing his draft stock, and especially with all the quarterbacks not knowing where people are going and a lot of quarterbacks retiring. It worked out well because I think you'd get more for Jimmy right now than you would in the offseason last season. So
Denver's another option.
Denver, absolutely. And obviously I think the first shoes to fall are going to be Aaron Rodgers, and then see what happens with Russ and maybe Kyler now. So depending on where those 3 quarterbacks go, then I think Jimmy Garoppolo is probably the next best option after those 3. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but he's also the least you're going to have to pay for.
Right. But
so the least salary and the least the least amount of picks. And if you did, like you brought up Carson Wentz, I think that's a good thing. Like you could say, hey, this is going to be a future second. You could say a 2024 second that could turn into a first if he plays over 75 or if he plays over 75% of the games and we make it to the playoffs every year. Like you could have the stipulations be that to where it's a 2nd round pick. But if you win, then, and he's healthy, then the Niners get a 1st round pick. Like the pick doesn't have to be this year. Like people are so bent on like recuperating what we gave up for Lance, but who knows what that value is going to be, right? The 1st round pick this year from the Steelers is 20th. So like if they make the playoffs next year and it's the 25th, like that's not too far of a difference.
Right.
But if you're able to get that 1st round pick next year because it's a stipulation for how well he plays and the Steelers make it to, the AFC Championship game, and that's the stipulation, and they do it, like that could be something where it would work out for us there, getting a higher ranked pick. I don't necessarily think it has to be a 2022 pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally it would be a third round this year and a conditional second that could turn into first, meeting certain types of, rubric, whatever those standards are. I think that would be great for the 49ers.
Because we're getting a conditional third for McDaniel. So
Right.
now we have a second and a conditional third. And so if you can get a third this year and a second, that's a conditional second that maybe turns into a first, and make the conditions, high. But if you're Pittsburgh and he takes you to an AFC Championship game, and you have to give up a first round pick to do that. Aren't you still happy? Like, isn't
Absolutely.
that? Yeah.
And if you have 3 third rounds from the 49ers side, you could package 2 of those third rounds and move up to a second round maybe. And, now all of a sudden you have 2 second rounds. And even you look at if they had their first round, it's a late first round, which is pretty much, early second round. So I think there's a lot of flexibility there right now because of, the market and what I think Jimmy will get. So it's going to be very fun to see. I think, this offseason, even though there's not any glaring weaknesses, Brandon, it still seems like there's a lot of all the pieces are pretty much there because of how close the 49ers were this season and how much you think the upside is going to be with Trey. It's going to be really interesting what they end up doing in the free agency and the draft because I think the 49ers feel like they're right there. And you're just a couple pieces away from, being the standard in the NFL and could be one of the favorites for the Super Bowl next season and for sure in this division, right?
Yeah, so it'd be interesting. I think another team we need to look at for Jimmy, which I think is the second. So right now, Pittsburgh has the highest odds and Tampa's second.
Hey, might as well go after his replacement in Green Bay in New England, right? So
yeah, because all they have is Trask, right? They have Kyle Trask, who they got in the second round. Did he show enough in the 2 years that Brady was there that Arians is comfortable with him, or would they rather have a stopgap for 1 year in Jimmy? And
I think Trask was drafted this year, wasn't he?
I thought it was maybe this year in the second round.
Yeah, he was in the same draft.
Yeah. So only 1 year.
Right. So, and who knows if Jimmy is going to be a quarterback that gets a long-term deal, right? Maybe somebody just keeps him for a couple years, signs him for a 2-year deal and lets him get another big contract after. I don't know. And there's just a lot of question marks right now. But I think the 49ers are in a good position. I think they're operating from a position of strength. They're not in desperate mode at any position, I feel like. And I think that if they play this offseason smart, this team's going to be very good for a long time.
Yeah, I've liked the coaching move so far. I think Jimmy might be the first domino to fall, right? Maybe a team doesn't want to pay up for Rodgers, or they don't want to wait for Wilson or Watson or Kyler, and they're just like, hey, we're only willing to pay this amount to upgrade this position. Let's go get Jimmy Garoppolo, and like he's around 30, so 31, I think, is what his age is off the top of my head. So I mean, he's still got some juice in him. Like he says he wants to play for a lot longer. Like if you could effectively extend his deal, give him more guaranteed money, because I believe his guaranteed money is only like $1.5 million, to maybe a 3-year deal and push that can down the road. So his salary is only $15 million this year with more guaranteed, and then his big money doesn't happen until the next 2 seasons. And when the salary cap is greater, like there's a lot of things the incoming team can do to lower the hit of his contract if they want him there for longer. Because like you said, he's a proven winner. You have to have the right pieces around him. You have to have the right team around him. He's not going to do it all on himself, but his winning, being a part of a winning culture speaks for himself. He's been praised by getting that media award for being a good culture guy, a good locker room guy. You've seen everybody on his team go to bat for him. And like, maybe if a team sees that and, like the Steelers, who's a big culture community, and sees that and goes in. I was in a little bit of a Steelers chat earlier today, and it was about 50-50. I mean, they're like, if the fans saying that they want him, or no way, or, we'll take our chances in the draft or something like that. So we'll see how that works out. I wonder what each of those fan bases that we mentioned, like how do they feel?
Right.
It's probably split down the center, like the Niners fan base this season.
And out of those quarterbacks, Russ, Aaron Rodgers, Kyler, even though, definite as far as play wise, those quarterbacks are better than Jimmy. Jimmy out of those is the easiest to deal with, right? So I think that could be something that's important for a team that is ready right now to win. Maybe they want somebody that could just be the glue type piece, which I think Jimmy is more of that type of quarterback than, some of those others listed. So I agree with you. I mean, you changed my mind about it. I think that absolutely with the price that people are going to have to pay for Jimmy, plus the caliber of player that they're going to get, it's going to be interesting. Maybe he's traded much sooner than we expect.
Because you have Kyler who just scrubbed his whole thing, right? Like he just on a team that like out of nowhere. You have Aaron Rodgers who could retire. Like you could give up 3 first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers. He plays one season and says, I'm done with football.
Right.
And so Jimmy backed up his teammates, backed up Trey Lance. Trey Lance said that they'll be best friends for life. Was a complete pro in this whole situation. Didn't talk badly about the organization when
he had every right to.
When he had every right to. And so maybe you just don't want to deal with the BS that would be, or the potential BS that would be with trading for some of the other options. And you get a guy that is anywhere, depending on your opinion, anywhere from 12 to 20 in the league. Some people think he's a backup. I think that's an extreme, but I believe he's around 12 to 20. And, if you get him and extend him, and then you could put more draft capital into other places and potentially continue those winning ways, with the right offensive coordinator.
I love it.